Another episode of our Called Out series. And today I'm sitting down with Brenda Joy. Quick introduction here. Brenda is a 26-year veteran entrepreneur, including 21 years building and successfully selling a brick and mortar chocolate business. At 55, she moved with her husband and 4 kids from Iowa to Florida and walked into a season of major change. She has built a second career in social media management, which seemed successful from every outside measure. And she kept feeling a nudge from the Lord to make a pivot. And now she's on her kingdom assignment, continually learning and surrendering to Him. Online, she's known as Your Obedience Activator, helping midlife Christian women find their voice and build their brand through her one story method. And her message to those ladies is it's not too late and it's okay to make big changes over 50. But a message like this is easy to say once you've landed on the other side. But I want to know what it looked like before we kind of got to this point. So I'm not going to share her story. I'm going to let her share her story. So Brenda, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate you.
Thank you. I'm glad we connected.
Me too. Okay, so let's get into this. Walk me back to the moment that you felt your business kind of needed to end, or not just slow down, like it was really time to close a chapter. Take me back to that moment and what was different from that moment versus just another hard day at work.
Yeah. So I think we've all had those moments, and, knowing whether it's just stress and fear or whether it's actually God nudging us and calling us to another assignment is key and not always easy, right? So I always say, okay, I got to have my morning times with God on the lanai so that it's just me and Him in stillness, in quiet, so that I can hear Him instead of the noise from everything else. And so I was completely convicted that it was time to sell my chocolate business. Like that was a for sure thing, even though it was delayed because of the pandemic and everything, but I just was convicted with that. But what happened after that, I thought, oh yeah, I'm going to just pivot right into that online, business, and it's all going to just be so much fun. I can work from home and not be tied down to a brick and mortar anymore and all the employees. And so moved the whole family from Iowa to Florida when I was 55. And I had no idea the season He was going to be putting me in, because for 21 years, I was in the motions of striving and hustling. And I had something, I never completed my to-do list. It was never done. Like 24/7, I just couldn't catch up. And so then when we moved here, all of a sudden, and He's nudging me to make sure you're there for the family during this transition and this move. And He kept telling me the words over and over again. Now it just seems like second nature, but surrender it all to Him and just be. And I did not know what that meant, to just be. What does that mean, to just be? I need to be moving and active and going on to the next thing. But He put me in moments of stillness and slowness, slow down, to get to the next business online, which was helping other business increase their social media, because that's what I did with the chocolate business, and realized, oh, if you're just intentional with your social media, you can bring in more sales. So that's what happened with that first pivot, was that. And it was one of the hardest things I've ever dealt with. Not only not knowing people when we moved here, that was different, because I lived in my adult city my whole entire, I lived in my city my whole entire adult life. So I moved here and didn't know a soul.
I know. I've been there. I moved here to Florida with you. Well, not with you, but same situation.
I know. It was just so different for me because I've never moved like that. And I'm doing the online thing, and it was so lonely. I had no idea it was going to be like that without having people around you, just the whole online thing. And I was blessed to have.
What years was this, if you don't mind me interrupting?
Yes. So that was 20, sold the business in 21, immediately started doing some online coaching with other business owners to help them with a lot of e-commerce. And I had some coaches and things in there that I helped with their businesses. That was in 2021.
So that's around COVID times when,
Yeah, we were still back in Iowa. And then, yeah, and then 2022, that summer is when we moved to Florida.
so very, very close to the COVID era of going digital when everybody was going digital, but
Yeah.
it was still extremely lonely during those times. I can remember isolating.
Right. Yeah. And just, I guess the other thing was I kept saying to my friends, I just moved to another state, but I didn't die. So I'm still here. I needed those, ladies. And it was such a huge city. Everybody was moving here. Everybody was moving here. And so it was just the Lord put me in just a season I was not used to on that new assignment. And it took me a couple years to really learn what it meant to just be with him, and that, another pivot is okay. But more and more people were asking me to help them with their social media. Like, I don't have time to do it. I don't want to do it. And I thought, well, I can help them. I can quickly have some reels made. I can help them with carousels and do all that for them. And so was doing that for some businesses, but it never felt quite in alignment. And it's very it's very task oriented, and that's just not me. I'm more, big picture. And so my girl was in club volleyball. And so it was so we're still doing this. A lot of traveling, a lot of gone for the weekends. And, there she'd be out on the court, and I'm having to, catch up and make a reel for businesses and try to do all that at once. And it just felt icky. But yet it paid well. Selfishly, it paid the bills. And so I knew I was meant to pivot. I was grateful I met a community of women here that was a faith-based networking group. That was the biggest blessing. And at the right time, at the exact right time. And I got invited to be a speaker, do the scary things. I felt like Moses, like being called out to do something that you did not feel qualified for, but do it anyway, even though you really weren't sure you wanted to either.
I know. It's like you need an Aaron to go alongside you and do the work for you. But the Lord's like, no, I'm going to have you do it. I'm going to make you do it all.
Yeah, that's why I always tell women, like, just because you're midlife or, I just read a card the other day that said, y'all calling yourself midlife like you're going to live to 130.
I mean, that's it feels like that sometimes.
And my girls will call me out. There's nothing like girls to keep you humble. And they're like, Mom, you're past midlife. Like you can't call yourself anymore. I'm like, oh, I can call myself that. It's okay. It's okay. But I always tell them, we're not in a season of just being stagnant and not doing anything. We're supposed to be challenging ourselves and doing new things especially to keep our brain going and moving and try new things and different assignments that he has us on. And so that was difficult for me, but I did it. I did it.
You mentioned, that throughout this you felt like it didn't feel aligned, or you weren't feeling really fully fulfilled. When you say that, what was the underlining feeling of that? When you said it just felt ick, like what felt disaligned? What didn't feel right, do you think?
Yeah, because it definitely was. I'm not a task-oriented girl. Like, I'm not a virtual assistant. That's not my role. Winnie, I never told you this part, but at 55 years old, for the very first time in my life, I got fired from a job. I got fired. And it was all God. It was all God. But I thought, because we moved on, I'm like, what am I'm supposed to just be? And I'm helping people online. But I felt like there's 24 hours. I need more. And so I applied to help an online Christian coach that's been in business for a long time. And my role was to head up their virtual assistant arm of their business. And I thought, oh, this will be great. This will be great. And I can sell. My specialty is sales and communication and people, bring a community together and sell. But the first day or two, it was very techy, very, very, very techy. Learn this tech and this one, and then this one you're going to use that password for this and that. I went, oh my word. And it was very admin. And And that's definitely not my lane. So it was awful. And I prayed. I went, oh no, I made the wrong decision here. And I felt bad because of going through the interview process and everything. So I'm like, Lord, help me. I don't know what to do. And I went to bed that night and I was so distraught. Lord, I don't know what to do. The next morning I got a call from the girl and she said, we don't think it's a good fit. And she was so nervous telling me this. Yeah, she was so nervous. Like her voice was all little. And I go, listen, I just want to tell you, thank you. Because I agree. This is what I exactly prayed for.
You're like, thank God, because I feel the same way. I was going to fire myself.
Yeah, and felt bad about it. So that happened. Yeah, that happened.
Oh, that's hilarious. I love that. I love when he shows up for you in that divine moment. And you're like, thank you for taking care of that because I didn't want to do that myself. But, humbling moment. But speaking of, getting fired or walking away or making this huge pivot, obviously you're stepping into obedience and that's a really strong word for you. But when we obey at certain times, specifically when we obey the Lord's calling on our life, it costs us something. It costs us, comfort. It can cost us time. It can cost us relationships, finances, a lot of things. So what has it cost you to walk in obedience and what does that look like for you?
100%. So he pulled me away from a church we'd been involved in since moving here. And I knew it was all him. Again, I felt the nudge before it even happened. I completely felt, this isn't quite right. Isn't quite right. Something's not right here. And we had met such amazing, great people. And that was our community and our girl, like the youth group. And so then, of course, what did he do? Boom, he gave me a situation that clarified, no, it's time to go. It's time to go. And that happened. And what that cost me was all those friendships, because not all of them, mind you, I'm still in touch with many of them, but most of them, let's just say the majority, we never heard from again. And I'm like, 2.5 years, we felt connected there and all that. But here's what he did through that. Here's what he did is, I am not kidding. It was probably within 3 to 5 days from when that happened. And it was definitely a conviction, 100%. That Christian women's group that I had done a keynote for, met some amazing women that I just felt welcomed. I thought, these are my people. These are my people. Okay, let's put God first in our business. And I go to the meeting and I'm sitting in the car in the parking lot. And I'm running a few minutes late. And I thought, if I just had I have no excuse for being late today. If I just had some sort of responsibility, or if maybe I was one of the leaders to help with all the things, then I would show up and be prompt and I would have a role. And then at the end of that meeting that day, the founder pulled me aside and said, I've been praying for what we call a PAL, a purposeful aligned leader. And he gave me your name for this location, and I want you to pray about it. And I'm like, oh my word. It happened just like that. Just like that. That's what he did. And that was, everything I needed, because what I had to switch, Whitney, which, we kind of talked about this too, is when you have a really successful business and then all of a sudden you don't, like, I was trying to do things, like when I took that job, I was trying to do things for the money. Was for the money. And so the Lord kept saying, your family needs you in your house. Your family needs you home. Your family needs you present. And then those women were brought to me, and I thought, this is like a ministry. It's not like I'm getting paid to do this, but look, I got put in a leadership role, which is my jam, around amazing women that are like-minded with him first. And so that completely filled my cup of that community. And then in the meantime, he's blessing my husband's business that he had just started. And that was all new, because usually it was me having things to do 24/7, him supporting me in whatever way with that business. And now I needed to be present to be able to take these girls wherever and be home and to make the environment good in the house when you've got, 3 girls in here and all the estrogen. And that was definitely surrender, and a big learning that I didn't really know what he was doing with me or what the assignment was exactly, but I felt for sure I was on the right path and on the right journey to getting there.
I love that. I feel we were talking about this the other day about, finding comfort in, it's almost in the waiting. Because I was explaining to you that the Lord was also putting on my heart, family too. It's your time to raise your daughter, be at home with your daughter. Your husband, works the corporate job. You work from home. So if she's sick and she needs to be home from school today, it's your responsibility to stay home, not him. And I was really struggling with that. I was almost resenting my husband with the fact that his job was more of a priority than mine. If anybody had to stop anything, it was always me, never him. And it was a pride thing on my point or on my side. And it was definitely a challenging thing to walk through. And I said to you the other day, he would receive these blessings, he would receive random checks in the mail for something, and I'd be like, why him and not me? Why is, and the Lord convicted me. Oh, heck, did he convict me? It was he slapped me across the face, because he immediately, the Holy Spirit on my heart was just who says that blessings for you can't come through someone else? I just was okay, I'm just gonna go and hide in my hole now, because he showed me this is where I need you right now. And it might not be as fulfilling as you would want it to be, but you are fulfilling a role that needs to be filled. And, your blessings come through your children. They come through your husband, and what is your husband's is yours, and yours is his. And it was a pride check. And it's something very challenging to walk through. So I can definitely relate to where you're going with that. And it's funny how we plug ourselves into community as women, because we naturally need just things to do, right? We just need things to do and people to work on and people to serve, because that's just our nature. So you find a community, or you find, a place where you can step up as a leader and mentor. It's just maybe financially different, but way more fulfilling. So I love that you shared that. But then that leads me into a next question, because I could probably answer it in my own way, but I want to hear from you. What does a nudge look like from the Lord? And, because you've mentioned, I felt convicted, or he confirmed. How do we know? I mean, there, to some extent, you can be you don't really know, but that's where the faith comes in. How do we know that that's a nudge from the Lord pushing you in that direction, rather than just maybe you taking the reins in your own life and pulling those strings yourself?
Yeah, that's the big question that everybody wants to know, I think. And I struggled with that for years. And how it got better is just spending more alone time with God, so that when I did feel the nudge to do something different, well, I've done it. And then the door closed. And then you think, did the door close because I just needed to keep pushing through it? Or was that God shutting the door? And sometimes you don't know unless you actually just take that action. That's why I always call it obedience. Immediately I got in my head, oh, I need to start this. I won't say what it was because it's still on the back burner. But I kept then reaching out to people to help me with certain aspects of this business. The doors just kept closing all over the place. And part of me had, you either have faith or you have fear. But I had fear at that moment of, ooh, I feel like this could be big. But what it would happen if it did get big is it would take me back to how it was when I had the chocolate business. And then I wouldn't be able to put the family first. And so I definitely don't think it's the time for that. Definitely, it was God shutting those doors for sure. But I didn't know that at the moment. That came later. That's why I always tell everyone just to take that obedience step, because he'll course correct you along the way. just go. And, even if you have a failure, that's how you learn. You learn from that failure. So, but definitely the more alone time, and for us high achieving, high capacity women, and maybe have a little ADHD, it's not always easy to sit still in silence. I struggled with that for years. And so, until I made it a priority, whether it be on my hands and knees next to my bed, first thing before I pick up my phone, or immediately going out to my patio and just spending time with him, when I make that a priority, he gives me more wisdom for the day. He gives me more peace for the day, and he increases my capacity and gives me more time. You think, oh, I don't have time for one more thing, or I don't want to add one more thing to this day, this week, whatever it is. But guess what? He makes the way and gives you the time.
It is. And, I love that you say spending more time with him and more time in the word, because knowledge is wisdom, and we can't gain knowledge without being willing to put ourselves into the word. And I think when we do that, we also understand his character more and how he tends to show up in our lives and communicate. It's like you said, it's like you praying in the parking lot and then walking into your event that day, and then right after the event, the lady coming up and saying, hey, there's this spot, you were on our hearts, I think you'd be good for it. There are a lot of people. It makes me think back to this commercial. I don't even know what commercial it was, but everybody was walking around in their phones, and the whole message of the commercial was look up, like pay attention. It was like, get our heads out of our device. A lot of the times the Lord is, not a lot of the times, all the time. When you are in relationship with the Lord, you see it all the time, but he is planning every little thing out in your life. So it's like the quick prayer that you had in the parking lot, and then you walked inside and somebody said something that you were just praying. It's not ironic. My father or my grandfather used to say, it's a God instance. Like, it is a divine action from the Lord. And it's those moments that I think you have to pay attention to, because he'll show up through circumstances. He'll show up through, you reading a certain something. I mean, I'm sure anybody that's in relationship with the Lord, you'll open up your Bible one random day and you'll read something that, like, it sends chills down your body. It's like, how the heck did this verse pop out at this exact moment? I look at those as all nudges from him. It's just, we have to look up and be able to pay attention in order to see those nudges, to either one, appreciate them, or two, act on them like you did.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, well, his book is the best operations manual. The best operations manual. And I did not get that back when I had one of my teenagers. I'll never forget this. In high school, we were going through some things. And I'm like, wow, it is hard to raise a teenager, and I don't know what to do. And I was talking to the youth director at our church, and I said, I just wish there was another parent that was going through what I'm going through that I could talk to and relate to. And he said, well, you had Jesus. He knows. And just open up his word, because that's the best operations book right there. That'll give you how to be the best parent. And I was like, what? First time anybody had said that to me. And, and I have heard people say that, well, they just can't get into the Bible or read it or whatever, but you just keep doing it. You just keep reading it and praying about it. And then all of a sudden, it becomes easy. It becomes more understandable. He gives you different parts of stories and things that have happened in the Bible that are relatable to you. And you're like, oh, and he gives you all those aha moments. But first you have to open it up.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's why they call it the living word. It's living and active and applicable to everyday life. Okay, I love this. So I'm curious, once you were like, hey, family, hey, friends, I'm selling everything and I'm following where the Lord's leading me. Oh, really? Where is that? I don't really know. I don't know where I'm going, but I'm going. Did you have any pushback from anybody? Like, did you have anybody say, Brenda, I don't know about this? Or was everybody pretty like on board to this life change, this pivot?
So the big move that we made. Okay, so that is so cool.
The move, or you selling your business,
okay.
or, selling your business and deciding to like, just pursue wherever the Lord's taking you right now?
Mm-hmm. Well, the selling of the business was definitely, we just walked that out for years, and everyone was on board. It was meant to be. It was good. I prayed that it would be a family or a person that loved the business as much as I did. And it ended up being a girl who started working for me when she was 14 years old. That's bought the business.
Wow.
And so I couldn't have asked for a better person than that at all. But when it was time to move, I always wanted to live someplace warm. So my whole life, I'm like, I'm moving. We're going to move south. But I helped take care of my elderly mom. My husband had a cushy corporate job, and the timing was never right. And he got out of corporate in 2020 and started doing different entrepreneur things. So he then had the flexibility to move. And then I sold my business. We had the then that opened that door. And so he was the one who doesn't like change and wasn't so sure about moving south or to a bigger city. But what is so funny about God is, guess what he did to him? He made him absolutely love it here before me. Because we get here and I'm like, whoa, I love the weather, but whoa, this is big city and this is crowded. And where's the nice people? I just wasn't used to that. I just wasn't used to it. It was just such a shocker. And for him, he immediately felt at peace with the move. I mean, he was just happy. You could see the joy. My favorite word is joy. And so it took me a while, to get into it. The kids, they all, one by one came, our 2 adult kids. They weren't going to come at first. And guess what happened? They came. The oldest daughter came with us, and our son, he moved here like 6 months after we did. So they're all here now. So it was definitely just God's perfect plan, but we had to be obedient and do it. And it wasn't easy. I mean, as you know, wasn't easy, but it definitely was what we were supposed to do. And now everyone loves it. My middle daughter had an Instagram that said, Florida's biggest hater. That was her Instagram post when we first moved here. And she hated the school. It was huge. And she's like, everybody's stupid. And now she's got some of the most amazing friends. She loves it. She's in college here now. I mean, yeah. So it was definitely the right move.
I love that. I think that's so cool. It's so funny how God will work on, like, you think this is what you want, but then he's like, wait a second, I got to work on some other people first. And then you're like, wait, I don't even know if this is what I want. But everybody else is like, what are you talking about? We love it. And you're like, what's happening? It's reverse psychology, right? It's hilarious.
Oh, yeah. I did not expect that. I didn't expect that at all.
I have one last question for you that I think is going to help other women that I feel might be in the same scenario. If there is a woman that is, working and building her business, but feels a similar nudge to either sell or make a huge pivot, but is hesitant to do so, what do you say to her?
Well, do it. So to step into something that you're scared to do will give you, it'll just bless you. So if we aren't stepping outside of our comfort zone to do those things, we're just stagnant, and we're not supposed to do that. Like, he wants us to be in action. He wants us to be moving and in action. He doesn't necessarily tell you to stay the same forever. I always try to be 1% better than yesterday. What can we do to be 1% better than yesterday? Body, mind, soul, spirit, everything. And so, it's important. But also to make sure you're in your lane and not somebody else's. Because at this age, and here's the thing that I see a lot of women is they're comparing themselves and what they're doing with their lives with 24-year-olds online. And I always tell them, stop following them. Like, unfollow all those girls. That's not you. You have your own story. You have all your life experiences. You have your gifts that God gave you. So you need to stay in your lane and where he's assigning you, not what her assignment is. You know, we have different assignments, different seasons from God, and we need to stop comparing ourselves to what they're doing.
I think as we get older, I mean, I'm sure this happens with every single woman at any age, especially when you're online, is that you feel like you've been doing what you're doing, whether you're in your industry or in your age block, you've outworked it. Like, it's just like, I've been playing this game for so long. So maybe if I try over here, or if I try this new thing, it's going to work better. But in all reality, you've just never really found your true calling or identity in where you need to be and where the Lord has you, because you're trying to take control in something that you've never given him permission to control, you know? So I've been there more times than I can count, and it stinks, but I would agree with you. I would say just do it, you know? And I think on top of that, and I'm sure you can confirm this on your end of things, is that one of the prayers I pray is that because sometimes I don't always get direct, like, I just don't get direct communication from the Lord. And I'm just like, Lord, we've been at this for a while, and I feel like I'm being nudged, but I'm not really sure, or like I'm second guessing it. But then I sit here and I think, is that the devil putting the doubt in my mind? So it's like, it's this back and forth craziness, right? So one of the things that I would also do when I take leaps is that, Lord, if this is me leaping by my own will and not in by your direction, please, Father, help me learn my lesson quickly and get me out of it. Like, I have faith in you to get me out of it quickly and turn it around. So then that way you are just jumping. It might be by your own choice and not the Lord's, but if you have faith in the Lord and the process, he'll either bless it or he'll convict you of it, and he'll help you turn it around quickly and hopefully quickly. So that's kind of what I've always prayed for myself.
That's so good, because I always think of the devil wants to put, what was it? There's so many D's: doubt, distrust, distraction. That's from the enemy. You know, that's not from God. So if you're really doubting a situation you've been put in, if you really feel distracted instead of being on your calling and your assignment for his kingdom, and if you really feel discouraged, those things aren't from God. Those aren't from God. Those are from the devil. That's from the enemy. He wants to distract you from your kingdom assignment. So we have to make sure. I mean, so just like with the social media management that I was doing, I mean, I just kept, that was the devil saying, you know, oh, you know, but you want more money and you this, and then he's trying to distract me. Well, you could also do this part of social media management, and you could do this, and how about you just do this part of it? And the Lord the whole time kept telling me, you know, just create something for women that's easy for them to follow, where you don't have to logistically do the work for them. And so then what he did is, I had one client left. That was a great client. It was easy for me. And what did he do at the end of last year? Voop, he took that client away. And I had a friend say, oh my goodness. So, you know, I heard that you're no longer their social media manager. And I'm like, yeah, thank you, Lord. Yeah, he did that. He did that. And she's like, oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. And just like us talking, that was, I gotta tell you, sweetie, that was such a conviction for me the other day when we were talking about the Lord blessing our husband's business and us coming alongside to support. You know, society or culture will use the feminine masculine thing, you know, like, oh, we're supposed to step into our feminine for, I mean, I don't know if I really like those words for it, but to be supportive and everything, that was a thing. And so when we had that discussion about it, that very day, I had someone in a situation where their husband in the church was being asked to do all these things, taken away from what they were doing for fun and everything. And I said, oh, we were just talking about this morning. And the Lord is giving him this role, this position for his kingdom. And you guys went through all this training and everything that, that he led you through to get to this position. But now all of a sudden, she thought I was going to be like, oh, how dare they do that to him and make him do all those things. But I thought, oh, no, girl, he's putting you in that role where you need to be supportive of what's going on in his life right now. So,
yeah. And look, it is, if you are a type A woman, it is incredibly challenging to be submissive and be okay with not having control or some say so, because it's not like you don't have a say so. I mean, you're married. Obviously, you're going to have conversations with your husband, but like, you don't get to call the shots. It's incredibly like, okay, Lord. Oh, there's been so many times where if I had a tail, it would go between my legs and I would just be like, I'm so sorry, but we're already forgiven and he knows that part of our human nature, especially if you're a woman that has that type of personality. But it's been a huge humbling, and I'm still walking through that, situation where it's like, I have to be okay with not directly receiving the blessings, but still receiving the blessings through my husband. As I roll my eyes when I when I say that, I promise you, I'm very grateful.
And I prayed too through that the Lord gives me joy. So yeah, give me joy in doing the things. Like I always say, well, I was not created to be a housewife. I am still doing this online thing and I'm building something new and I'm on this new journey of helping women in a different way. But I want to have that joy in my house. I want to have that joy when I am supporting my husband and doing all those things. And so he gave that to me, he gave that to me. I
love that.
Jam the worship music and change the atmosphere.
I love it. Well, you are walking in obedience and it's so exciting to see. And I'm excited to continue following your journey out of midlife. I jokingly say that because your daughters, I know, right? Yeah. Hey, we're all walking through it. So, thank you, Brenda, for your time today and taking the time to speak with us. Thanks I appreciate you sharing your story.